Okay, it says that we are live for people watching recording. Hang on for a minute while we post some links in the Telegram channel. And then we'll do a quick round of introductions. Got the share link. YouTube. Okay. Okay, as always, guys, just collectively, let's keep an eye on the chat in YouTube, because some people do use that, and I can't pay attention to it, especially when I'm sharing my screen. So yeah, let's go ahead and kick this off. Welcome everybody to the Permissionless Software Foundation Technical Steering Committee meeting. Today is January 4th, 2023. We made it to the other side of 2022. Congratulations. My name is Chris Troutner, and I'm joined by these lovely fellows here. Let's go ahead and just to introduce myself, I founded the PSF. I also maintain fullstack.cash, which is cloud services and developer services for people who like crypto tokens, cryptocurrency and tokens. Aaron Shoemaker, why don't you introduce yourself?
Aaron Shoemaker. I work with 3D metaverse technologies, integrating them with blockchain and tokenization, SLP tokens, all that stuff. I've been with the PSF for, I think, 2 years now, maybe going on 3. I don't know. Time's flying.
Yeah, I have a hard time keeping track of it too, but yeah. Oh, wow. A minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron Sunman.
Greetings, Aaron Sunman here. Big fan of the Permissionless Software Foundation and permissionless software innovation in itself. The idea of being able to create stuff without having to require permission from somebody is massive. And I want to be a part of this. Right now, I'm working on one called ownrare.art. The idea is to take what Chris and Daniel have been building over the past years and do something new with it. And in this case, using SLP tokens and creating NFTs with it and trying to make it super simple with the same sort of feel and ease of use that OwnRare has. That OpenSea has. I don't know if I'll get there, but it's still fun to work with. And I appreciate all the work that the Permissionless Software Foundation has done over the years.
Nice. Daniel, you want to give us a little intro?
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm a JavaScript developer. I joined the PSF back in 2019 with Chris. I've been working with him since then. I'm glad to be here today.
Nice. Go ahead, Stoyan.
My name is Stoyan Zhekov, and I'm helping from time to time with support for the JavaScript libraries for the foundation. That's all for me. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks, guys. Okay, well, with that, I'll share my screen and we'll get into the agenda. So it's a pretty light agenda because this meeting's going to be pretty heavy on discussions. We're going to talk about the Minting Council and as we've been talking about over the last few meetings. But just real quick to go through these tech updates, Stoyan submitted a couple pull requests to the PSF BCH wallet. One was a bug fix and one was a code cleanup. So Stoyan, thank you very much. Your PRs are always appreciated. Also the PSF BCH wallet got these MC commands, which are for the Minting Council, so that's pretty salient for today's discussion. So let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commands, and there's a video. I'll show the video later. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at any of that, but essentially these are the first commands that the Minting Council will use to set the price of the pay to write database, the price to write to the pay to write database. That's going to be like the first thing that the Minting Council takes on. What I tried to show in the video is that there's essentially the members of the Minting Council, and then there's like an initiator, which would probably be a member of the management. If you look at our governance documents, I'm referring to the org chart. And so the initiator who's initiating all this, they do the bulk of the work. They're issuing like 5 of the 6 commands, And the each member of the minting council is really just, their job is really just to make sure that the transaction request is authentic, and then they sign it. And so it's really just one or two commands. So trying to make it really easy for each member of the minting council to participate. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little more detail. And always, guys, interrupt me at any time. I love feedback.
I have a little feedback on this.
Mhm.
I tried most of the commands, like finding the keys and stuff like this one. And what I found is that the source code for some of them will require some cleanup.
Yeah.
Like it's not only for this one, but there's some code left from the previous like PSF wallet iteration, like
From the multi-sig stuff.
not only, like maybe even from before. You initiate there's some you're creating some like conf object, but now you have a dedicated function which is reading the whole configuration, like get rest something. So it's hard to see. We need to clean most of the commands because it's becoming very complicated project already, this wallet. And yeah,
you're totally right about that. And there are artifacts left over in old commands from old coding styles, and then we're using new coding styles. And the one nice thing about this architecture is that each command like stands on its own, and doesn't I mean, it can depend on other commands, but doesn't necessarily have to. So that's one thing that helps us with that sort of mismatch between these coding styles. But you're right. Yeah, it would be great to go back. And I mean, I'm trying to just be happy with 100% test coverage, like, and maintaining that. But yeah, there's a lot of commands I find myself going back and refactoring to match these new code styles and leverage some of these utility functions that are, better to leverage them than to do everything from scratch in each command.
I just wanted to clarify, like in most of these commands, you're like hard coding the interface to be consumer API. Is it like a preferred way to communicate with the whole structure?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's something I wrestle with because when I started coding it that way, let me see if I can find an example real quick of
this last minting console commands. They're like this one. When you create initialize the wallet, you're putting there like a consumer API like inside the commands code. So it was okay. Maybe this is the preferred method.
This is, here we go. I can turn on sharing, and I'm going to share my screen just so you guys can see what we're talking about. So there's this call to consumer API. There's the get rest server. Where's the instantiate wallet command? Instance wallet. Okay, and then it's calling the server interface, which is actually defined above. So here,
if you take a look on the last, for example, minting console commands, they does not use this function, get rest server. They hard coding the consumer API. That's why I'm asking. So there is no way, in fact, to change the way they're working with the conf.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that is, I mean, I was putting this stuff together quickly, so I was copying and pasting a lot of code. So there's a couple issues here going on. I'm glad we have the opportunity to discuss them. So what you brought up, Stoyan, is clearly like old code that needs to be refactored to call these utility functions, because this is how the wallet should be getting instantiated so that you can use those config settings. The other thing that I'm wrestling with is this consumer API. So there's this is going back to the cache stack. So if anybody's unfamiliar with what I'm going to talk about, it's documented at cachestack.info. But there's the Web 2 and the Web 3. So Web 2 is like the API service that fullstack.cache offers, and it's a REST API, and it's sort of the de facto standard, and that's what developers coming into the space without any previous background are going to expect. And so that's what the minimal SLP wallet, which is the thing that sort of wallet engine that powers a lot of this code, I have it default to the REST API, but I haven't really used it in a long time, and most of you guys aren't using it because we've switched to the Web3 cache stack, and so we tell it to use the Web3 instead of Web2 with this consumer API call by switching this interface. And I'm at a point where it's like we don't really have very many active users who are using the Web2. Maybe we should make the Web3 call the standard, so we don't have to go out of our way to initiate it or to instantiate it this way. But if we do that, the risk we run is like anybody coming into the space that's new is like not going to understand what's going on and not going to understand why it's working, why we do it this way. And also, like, these Web3 servers, they don't have any guarantee of uptime. And the idea is that, like, you shouldn't rely on any one of them. You should have like a selection of them to choose from. But again, that's like training. That's like something that somebody needs to learn before they can just hit the ground running. So I wrestle with this. So that's the bigger obstacle I'm kind of dealing with. But yeah, Stoyan, thank you for bringing those up. Those minting council commands are not. They're not like they still need a lot of work. Even though they have 100% test coverage, they're still kind of a proof of concept at this point. And so, yeah, they will need to be refactored. And thank you for pointing that out, because they should be using these functions.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys have any ideas on how to approach that larger problem of, should we just bite the bullet and switch to Web3? Should we continue to make Web 2 the default? I'm open to input on any of that.
What's going to be faster?
The Web 2 is going to be faster.
Yeah, that's why how to see what I was doing. The default on Web3 is nice, like, because it's ready to go. But when you are playing with the wallets, like Aaron, you give me these great servers, and I have there like BCH API running there on my local server. So when I'm using this wallet, I want to switch to this fast Web2 local interface and not use consumer API at all. So for developing on localhost, like, Web2 is great. And maybe for the default Web3 is, yes, it's ready to go. Like, it can be like this one, maybe. I don't know.
Is there a scalable point where we have enough of the Web3 interfaces that it'll be comparable in speed?
Well, the Web3 is always going to be slower because you're routing through the IPFS network until you eventually hit essentially what is the Web2 stack. And so that's why the Web2 stack will always be faster. But the Web3 is a lot more flexible. And the web, like, for example, the Web2 thing, like for us, I have my own stack running on my own LAN. You've got your cache stack running on your computer that Stoyan's leveraging. Aaron Sunman has his own cache stack server. So in all these cases, we would want to use Web2 because we're either hitting it locally, and therefore we don't need to go through the IPFS network, or we just want to take advantage of that speed because we know what's going on. But in the case of a person coming here for the first time, and maybe they understand how REST APIs work, they're like immediately going to hit the rate limits at fullstack.cache, and the error message is going to encourage them to sign up for an account. And that's all great. I'd love that income stream, but it's also not a very pleasant user experience. And then you asked, like, is there a point where it really, if the trade-off is speed versus flexibility? So like the Web2 is fast and it'll always be faster, but it's also really easy to censor. It's really easy to charge for, and it's also much easier to give like uptime guarantees and all that cloud infrastructure. That's all like really well understood tech, whereas the Web3 is more about redundancies. It's like it's much less expensive than operating Web 2, and so we're able to offer a lot of it for free at scale. And if any one server is down, you can select an alternate server very easily. And actually, the fact that it's not as fast is an advantage, because a lot of in my experience setting up these Web 2 servers, they just get hammered by spammers, which is why you have to throw up all this rate limiting and charge for access and all this stuff. Whereas the time will tell if the statement's true or not, but the inherent latency in that Web 3 actually slows everything down, relieves a lot of the pressure on the servers, even if someone's like hammering one endpoint over and over again. And so I actually view it as a feature and not a bug, the extra latency.
Well,
Yeah,
I love to see us move toward the higher decentralization. I mean, it feels like to me, the whole reason we are doing a lot of this is to make sure that there's less chance for censorship, and this moving that way would help us. So, if there was a vote toward that, at least in thought, that's where I would go, even though it's a little slower.
Going back to what you're saying, Chris, I've noticed that the Web3 is more easy for people that don't have the web token for the full stack. I've used wallets for testing and with many tokens, and I never hit a problem with the Web3 but with the normal one without a web token. I always hit the rate limit. So I think it's good and flexible, like you said, the Web3 stack.
Yeah, that's good feedback. So if you guys watched the presentation I gave at the Bitcoin Cash conference, that was one of the points I was trying to make in that is like, there's a lot of focus on the sort of high end Web 2 stuff with the exchanges and the established companies, trying to go after those sort of basically phone app users that have low technical ability and low tolerance for bugs. Like, there's a lot of focus on that. There's not as much focus on the hobby developer side of things. And some of this Daniel's bringing up this empirical evidence that is it's hard for me to summarize, but it's definitely been my lived experience that, like, I get a lot of developers who want to use our software from India, and $10 a month is prohibitively expensive. Same with South America, and so those are the developers that I'm really trying to encourage. Like, yeah, just use the Web3 thing, because it's it might not work perfectly, and you probably shouldn't launch a production app with it, but at least you can do what you need to get done, even if it's a little slow, and you won't have to pay for anything, and you don't have to add a bunch of extra code to compensate for rate limits. And it sort of lets them dip their toes in the water. So yeah, it's hard because we're trying to cater to a spectrum. And so the only thing available to us is trade-offs. There are no solutions. So yeah, just a continuing discussion, I guess.
Famous Thomas Sowell quote: "There are no solutions, only trade-offs." Yeah, which is true for everything, but especially in this case right here.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just that's something to ponder and continue discussing. Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention that starting this month, January, February, and March, I'll be working on a new CoinJoin wallet, and this work was funded by the Bitcoin Cash community through a flip starter, and I'm pretty excited about it because I'm going to essentially get paid to learn how to build an Electron.js desktop app. So be able to take our web wallet and package it as a desktop app that will run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. I think that's a really powerful value add to our software stack. So that's the first step for me. Most of this CoinJoin wallet has already been written. So like the big thing I need to figure out is really just how to follow the tutorials and build a desktop app. Everything else is pretty much like 70% of the code's already there. But I'm pretty excited to work on that.
Chris,
go
are
ahead.
you like already decided on the Electron guy, or?
Pretty much. I mean, is there another framework for building desktop apps that you can recommend?
Yeah, that's why I was bringing this. There's one thing named capacitor.
Oh yeah, we're familiar with that.
Yeah, because let's see, from what I know, the Electron guy, it's using too much memory, and everybody is complaining that it's installing the full browser just to have this application.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just asking, maybe you made some research and you're like, okay, in front of me on this JavaScript native stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar about the memory complaints with Electron, but that seems to be the only black mark. The thing that's most impressive to me is that it's withstood the test of time. It's got a nice roster of like really big apps that use it, like Slack and I think Discord. And we have used Capacitor primarily for converting a React app to an Android app. So I didn't realize that they also provide support for desktop apps. Do any of you guys have experience using it for that?
I do not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll definitely look into it. I'm not so committed to Electron at this point that I can't change course. So yeah, I'll definitely, thanks for the tip, Stoyan. I'll look into that.
Yeah. I know our company was using for some time this capacitor, so that's why I was asking what is your opinion. But yeah, so
cool. Well, yeah, I'll look into it because I mean, it is a big bummer with the memory usage, but it's not a showstopper with the Electron JS. But yeah, I'm definitely open to other possibilities.
Stoyan, would using capacitor help with converting it to a mobile device wallet as well, or would that not make a difference?
I will just put here some link. You can make your own research. But yeah, our company was doing like iOS and Android applications, and they was using something like this one. So yeah, you can see if it will help. But yeah, according to their documentation, it should create cross-platform iOS, Android, and progressive web apps.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Yeah, because like I do use Capacitor for generating Android APKs, and I know that it can do the iPhone files too. So yeah, I'll have to look into that as a possible option, because I would love for us to. I mean, ultimately, this is where I'm trying to get is like the holy grail of coding, which is like write your code once and then deploy it to every platform. So, like the web wallet being a React app, we already have the workflow set up to convert that to an APK to turn it into an Android app. And so what I'm hoping to achieve with Electron is be able to take that same code and generate a desktop app with it, and so that we can just have one code base that we can export to all these different devices. Well, with that, let's get into this Minting Council discussion. I've got some documentation here. So this is all on psfoundation.info. And I added some documentation on the Minting Council, and this video is sort of, it starts off high level, and then the second half is pretty low level, getting into these new Minting Council commands. But and then the rest of this documentation kind of covers what's in the video. But what's really unique about this approach, and this was very much a bottoms-up research project. Like I didn't go into this like with an idea of how I wanted everything to work. Like the only really high-level objective I was trying to achieve is how do we create a multi-sig wallet to separate the power so that no one person has the power. And what I ended up with here is a system that I've never seen before. And what it does is, in order, essentially, the primitives that I had to respect here is that you need public keys, a set of public keys to create a multi-sig wallet. That's how it works. And what I realized from my previous work is that, one, we can use these NFTs as a homing beacon to identify an address holding the token. And then another like previous piece of work I did help me to realize that if we have the address and that address has made one transaction, we can look up the public key from the blockchain, which is a highly convenient feature, because this is the whole reason why encrypted email never really went mainstream, was because of this friction of having to get the public key from the person you're trying to send a message to. You can't just send them a message. So this ability to look up a public key on the blockchain like solves that problem, and it makes this ability to just send someone an encrypted message like, much less problematic. And so I realized that applies directly to this whole multi-sig problem, in that like, oh, okay, well, if you're holding the NFT, I can just look up your public key and I can generate a multi-sig wallet from that. I don't actually need any input from you to add you to this multi-sig wallet. And so that's pretty cool, because that reduces a lot of friction and a lot of steps right there. But it also kind of throws in the question of like, I don't know how much experience you guys have working with Bitcoin multi-sig wallets, but the sort of go-to standard for the last few years has been Electron Cash wallet. And in that, you actually have to get like on a Zoom call. It doesn't work very well asynchronously. That's the point. Like you always have to have everybody synchronously, like in a meeting in real time, coordinating, passing back XPub keys. And it's like I don't know how you could possibly do this with anonymous people. And that's one of the things we're sort of, it's not an immediate goal, but we're sort of looking to that in the future. And so this is cool. Like basically I can add anybody to this multi-sig wallet without their knowledge, which is kind of a double-edged sword there. But and then I can generate a transaction to spend money from this multi-sig wallet. And that's essentially what those commands do. And there's a couple caveats with that. Like, first of all, like the wallet, that multi-sig wallet just sort of springs up on the fly. And so it has no balance. So even if you get the transaction signed, it doesn't do you any good because there's no money in the wallet. So that's like, that's a minor issue because anybody can send money to the wallet and you only need a few sats. But it's something to consider. And then what was the other one I was trying to think of? It's escaping me now, but let me just walk you guys through this workflow. So there's the initiator, which would probably be me or more generically a member of the management. And just so we're all on the same page here, this is the org chart I'm talking about. So there's the VIP Telegram channel where all the governance NFT holders communicate. And then there's these separate organizations. So we are right here, the TSC, and then we're talking about forming a minting council. And then there's the management, which is currently just me, but in the past has been 3 people, and hopefully we'll get this going again. And so the idea here is that a member of the management would do the bulk of this work, where they'd run, anybody can run this command and collect the keys of all the NFT holders that are members of the minting council. And they initiate the transaction by running and the other thing is these transactions are pretty mission focused. So if we were to say mint new SLP or new PSF tokens, that would be a very different transaction than this transaction, which is updating the pay to write database write price. So they're all op-return transactions, but they're the specific, like this code would have to be tweaked to generate these very specific transactions. But this transaction is pretty high or pretty intensive in that it does a bunch of things. It looks up all the public keys for all the minting council NFT holders. It generates a multi-sig wallet on the fly, and then it also generates a transaction for spending from that wallet, and then it sends the unsigned transaction to each member of the minting council. And this is another feature where because I can look up your public key, I can send you an end-to-end encrypted message, and I don't actually need to interact with you in order to do that. So each member, and this is using the pay-to-write database messaging protocol that we've had for a while. And again, if any of this is making you raise your eyebrows and as a question mark, like stop me, guys, and get some clarification. This is the time to do that.
So the only thing that's required still is that there has to be some transaction done by the address holding that NFT.
Right.
So, and that means you had to have some sats in there and you had to actually do something, which I don't think I've done that yet on 9. So I need to probably look at that as well.
Yeah, but it's nice like this because in fact, you cannot sign this transaction if you don't have sats. So it's like a nice beacon. If this address is never transacted, you cannot sign the transaction also. So it's good to like this now.
Yeah. If you haven't done that sort of prerequisite step of making a transaction, then like you won't even be included in the multi-sig wallet, and because it won't be able to find your public key. So yeah, there is sort of a protection mechanism there. Oh, and so and that leads me to the other thing I was trying to remember, where when we add or remove someone by giving them an NFT, it changes the multi-sig address. The address of the multi-sig wallet changes, and so that's problematic in that, because like as we add or remove people from the minting council, that multi-sig wallet address changes. So we can't really use the address as a reference. And yeah, I'll get into this in a minute to explain how this impacts the updating the pay-to-write database price. But essentially, the initiator runs this one command that does all these things, that sends everyone an unsigned transaction. And then the actual members of the minting council, it's important for them to, like, so let's say it was me and I initiated an update to the pay-to-write database. I would run this command, and then on the Telegram channel, I would say, hey, everybody, I sent you a message with this subject from this address, my address. And so it's important that each member verifies the subject and the sender, and that just comes through. There's commands for doing that. That's how we avoid a phishing scam. Not that we really need to worry about that at this point, but in the future we will at scale. So as long as you can just verify the subject and the sender, and you agree, that like, okay, as a member of the minting council, this is my job to sign this thing, then you sign it and it sends it back to the originator. And then the originator, once they have enough of these keys, they can finalize the transaction and broadcast it. Now to get back to this repercussion, so because the address of the multi-sig wallet changes, we can't actually do something where like we look at the address and see if there's been an update. Because once we add or remove an NFT or a member of the minting council, that address is going to change and the transaction history is going to change. So instead, we have to do like a 2-part method where, like in the case of the pay-to-write database, we're going to have one address that has the sort of price history, and the pay-to-write database app will check that. And what will happen is I, as the initiator, we'll send some dust with an op return to that address saying, this is what the price should be on this date. Here are the public keys that authorized it, and then the transaction that the minting council actually signs is just like putting their stamp of approval on that, by doing a transaction with an op return. And then what the pay-to-write database will do when it starts up is it'll look at that address, it'll find the latest price update, and then it'll look for that stamp of approval and validate that stamp of approval, and then it will update the price. So it just adds an extra step to the whole process. But yeah, it's just sort of this. I'm finding all these little caveats and trade-offs with this way of doing it the way we're doing, which is very different than what I'm used to with the Electron Cash wallet and multi-sig wallets on that. So I don't know if I've properly conveyed the stuff, but this is something we'll learn as we progress.
Yeah,
I think we
tried
need to run some tests.
Yeah, I tried commands, but as you mentioned, until we done it one time, it's like very
Yeah.
theoretical discussion. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometime let's try it one time and we will know is it working or no.
Right.
I'm all about, like, you can really try to think out everything that could go wrong, but until you start working with it and trying it, then there are things you're never going to think of. And so if we were to just kind of run some tests and like, all right, how did it work this time? Did this work all right? This didn't work so well, or this could be better, that's how we're going to know. So
Yeah, I'm glad you guys have that attitude, because that is totally the right attitude.
Let's break some stuff.
Yeah, and that's actually a good segue into like the next steps that I want to take. So everything I've told you guys is sort of a recap on what I've already done. And the next steps I want to take with you guys, or as a group, is I want to officially and formally bring the Minting Council into existence. And so most of you guys, and so there's this proposal that I created for creating the Minting Council, and you guys are all named in here. And so we will be the initial Minting Council. And so this will be our very first vote using the new system. So what'll happen is so this meeting right now is like one of these opportunities to change this before we actually take it to a vote. So if anybody's against this, speak now. But assuming we're all good with moving forward, and I also haven't seen any objection on the VIP Telegram channel, there are these new vote commands that I can use to airdrop a voting token to each holder of the governance NFT. And then just as before, there are these voting addresses. So so whatever wallet is holding your governance NFT will have one of these voting tokens magically appear there. And when that happens, you can then send that voting token to one of these addresses in order to cast your vote. There's a yes, a no, and an abstain if you just want to get rid of your token. And so we'll tally up all the votes at a certain date, and that'll either be a yes or a no. And then as a result, we'll form, if it's yes, then we'll form the Minting Council. So each of the people listed here will get a new NFT, a Minting Council NFT, and that's what will allow all these commands to happen. And then we can come together and update the paid right database right price, and this is where we'll sort of discover the dragons and find out if there's any bugs and sort of get the rest of this workflow ironed out.
I just like the Council of Errands is well represented in this.
Yeah, 2 of the 5, 20%, 20% of the council is errands.
Go errands.
Should we add something to the rules that, for example, like if there's 2 errands, their power decreased by 0.75%?
Errands are not allowed to collude.
So they cannot create a leak of errands inside the council.
I was about to make you an honorary member of the Council of Errands, Stoyan. Now think second thoughts.
Yeah,
politics is already starting.
It should double with all those A's, because
there's a lot of A's.
There's no A in Chris.
Do we need to send a transaction from the wallet we have the governance token in, or can you use the governance token as the homing beacon?
Yeah, the governance token is the homing beacon. I'll let you guys know if I have any issue. Like I'll be able to see any NFTs that I can't find the public keys for.
And so the voting.
Actually, I don't even need the public key for that. I just need the address. So there shouldn't be an issue with that.
The latest version of the Cly wallet is going to have the minting or the voting for the voting commands. So I should go download that.
Yeah.
Chris, I wanted to ask on
no, you don't need to use the command line wallet for voting. You can just use the web wallet. I mean, you can use the Cly wallet if you want.
for minting, I would need to use the Cly wallet, right?
Yeah, for the Minting Council, we all will need to use the Cly wallet.
So
Chris, I
just
wanted to ask about this wallet. Like before, you created like a multi-sig branch, and you was going to continue working on the multi-sig stuff inside this branch. But now this minting console commands, they're, let's see, merging the master branch.
Mhm.
So what will happen? Like they also are using like multi-sig wallet, right?
Yeah, so my thinking there was that I'd keep the multi-sig branch as its own isolated branch, because we're gonna have to get pretty weird with, I mean, like as some of the trade-offs I just explained, like we're gonna have to get a little weird with the code, and there's gonna be a lot of experimentation, and so I'll keep it isolated to that multi-sig branch, and then the things that we learn in that branch by collaborating on that branch, we can bring into the master branch. So like those MC commands for the minting council, those are also going to change, as needed. But those are more like, these are the commands we're going to use for the minting council, is sort of the logic there. Do you have any thoughts on how it might be better to structure things?
No, but I was thinking like minting console is something built on top of the multi-sig wallet. So I think the proper hierarchy was like master and multi-sig and then minting console one. So now if we change this minting console commands, we will like tweak them. And next, this thing needs to go to the multi-sig branch, but after this it need to come someday again back to this main branch.
Yeah.
So this is a little confusing for me, but
yeah the relationship there is not, is that I see what you're saying in terms of like a get flow and how you bring branches and merge branches back in, like that's not the relationship. The multi-sig stuff is really just an experimentation branch, and so whatever we do there, we're not going to want to pull that back into the master branch. And the reason for that is because of all these caveats I discovered, is like, oh, this is like nothing like working with the electron cache multi-sig thing. Like going into it, that's kind of how I was thinking about it, is like, okay, we'll develop some stuff in multi-sig, and then we'll merge it back in the branch, and we'll be able to like nicely use that code. And that's just not really how it played out. Plus, with the BCH, with the Cli wallet, all these commands are sort of self-contained. So there's not a lot of dependencies between code and commands. I mean, if it's a utility library, then that's intended to be used by all the commands. But if each command itself basically stands on its own, that's why there's a lot of repeated code in some of the commands. So yeah, I don't really anticipate us, because I guess maybe I can say it a different way, is the way we're doing the minting council is so unique that it's not, I don't know if that's going to translate to other things we might want to do down the road, like minting new tokens. I think that might end up being a completely different workflow. And also this situation where when you add or remove someone from the minting council, the multi-sig wallet changes. That makes it really difficult for us to do things like hold money in the wallet, because it's just like we need to think through the logistics of
but in
of
this
that.
case it makes sense this minting console to be also the different branch, or no? Like
I thought about doing that too,
because the usual users, they will not use this multi-sig pretty much at all,
right?
So
and so that's a good reason to put it in its own branch. But essentially I have them turned off by default, and maybe it would be a good idea to put them in the branch just so that we don't clutter up the README. That would be a good reason to just put those commands in their own branch. Yeah, I could go either way on that one. I mean, either it's just kind of a detail either way.
I'm not sure, because how to see this Cli wallet you using some of the code also for the other blockchain wallets, like for AVAX and for eCash, I think. So there's no minting stuff, minting console stuff needed there, maybe.
Right.
So putting this in the master will be difficult then to port some of the fixes, bug fixes to the other blockchain wallets.
Yeah, no, that would be a good reason to put it in its own branch. Just because, yeah, those commands would be completely meaningless on those other chains. Well, not so much on the eCash, but and a normal user wouldn't use it. So yeah, it might be better just to move the Minting Council stuff to its own branch. And it's easy enough for anybody on the Minting Council just to tell them, like, yeah, you gotta be in the Minting Council branch when you're using this thing. So, okay, well, let's continue to think about that, because I do like that idea. I like the idea of maybe moving the Minting Council stuff to its own branch. One other thing I wanted to show you guys is that, yeah, so before we get to the Minting Council goodness, we're gonna we're gonna need to have this first vote. So this section, this voting section of the governance documents, it has this note that I'm going to put a video here. So this vote to create the Minting Council is going to be our first vote, and a lot of these questions that we're going over, like do you need to use the CLI wallet for this? Like the answer is no. I'll show once I airdrop the tokens to the existing governance NFT holders, I'll do a video showing me casting my vote just to show how, like, yeah, okay, there's the wallet. And here's the token that was airdropped, and I'm going to send it to this address, and I've just casted my vote. You know, just because we've got some very non-technical people who have governance NFTs.
How many governance NFTs are out right now?
So Chris, you will have a video like this famous president voting, like Trump putting there his vote. So now we will have Chris putting his vote.
Do my best Trump impression or something.
Yeah. You can do this.
It's a really good vote,
get a Washington wig.
Red hat, you know.
Best vote ever.
Mega.
Impression. Yeah, how many governance tokens are out right now?
I think there's only about 8 in circulation. I mean, anybody can look up the group token and get a list, but I think there's about 8. There's the 5 of us, and then I think there might be 3 others.
Is there going to be a limit on governance tokens, or is that just?
Well, I mean, it's up to the current governance token holders to decide, which we all are. But my thoughts there are that no, we every time one gets purchased out of the DEX, I just create a new one and put it up there, and hopefully that baton for creating new governance tokens will be something that's held by the Minting Council soon, and they take that action. But my thought is that, you know, one token is one vote. So if one person wants more, you know, influence, they just have to buy more governance tokens. With the caveat that this is all voluntary work. So having a token doesn't really get you the right to tell anybody what to do. But yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts. I'm open to any other thoughts.
No, it seems all right.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice is it fits in nice with the Bitcoin culture in that we can all track the number of governance tokens that are out there, but there's the pseudonymous thing where you know, we don't necessarily know who's holding them, but we do know that they've put some skin in the game based on the fact that they do have them, and so yeah, it's kind of a nice balance between anonymity and trust.
Maybe Chris, it should be like a limit tokens per wallet. Maybe everybody can hold 1 token in the wallet, or I don't know. You can still go around creating many wallets, so it's not so maybe good, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to game that.
Well, I mean, yeah, right now we have 1 token's bought, 1 token's made. If it goes to the Minting Council, we could, whatever period we set for minting, we could say we're only going to mint X number of governance tokens, you know, per minting session. And that would be determined by the governance token holders, who would come and say, okay, we're going to mint 8 mint governance tokens for this quarter, and, you know, vote on it.
Mhm.
Say we vote on it. Okay, now these 8 get minted. Once they're gone until the next round of
Over a
minting.
period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I think once we hand the minting baton over to the minting council, that'll probably be a good way to deal with those logistics.
Well, and that can also down the line keep out any fly-by-nighters, anything like that. Like we've talked about
Mhm.
before, like the nuclear option. If somebody comes and they got a bunch of governance tokens, well, this would also help to keep somebody from being able to buy a bunch of governance tokens, because after a certain period of time they'd be out for maybe we do it quarterly, right?
Mhm.
After a certain amount of time to the quarter, they're out, and you'd have to wait to buy them next time. But this also means if you're not really invested in the project, you're probably going to leave. But if you are, that next quarter, you're probably going to be there buying governance tokens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing that I'm more worried about is exhaustion of like having too many governance votes or asking the minting council to do too many things
Mhm.
too often. And so I like this idea of like once a quarter, like the management is gonna have 10 governance token NFTs to sell on the DEX. And then once a quarter, however many sold, that's how many the minting council will bring into, and basically top them off. And so once a quarter, like that's the maximum number of governance tokens that can even be sold. And so that reduces the number of votes we need to have. It reduces the number of times the minting council needs to come together, and it sort of caps the fly-by-nighter risk that you just brought up.
Yeah.
So I like that. And actually that reminded me, another thing that's in this voting proposal is sorry guys, just waiting on the UI. $20. I ended up, part of this proposal is that every time the minting council comes together to do something, each member receives $20 in PSF tokens. And I just thought that that'd be a nice way to get, it is kind of a job. We're asking them to do some work. So it's just kind of a nice way for us to accumulate PSF tokens. And we can either cash them out or put them towards another governance NFT to have more influence with the community. So anyways, I put that in here. I didn't want to bring this up and not mention that. So if anybody has any objections or thinks that's a good idea, it's a good time to bring that up.
Yeah, it seems like it makes sense to address those kind of things. And people, it is going to take effort, so rewarding the effort.
1999.
Yeah. So Adam Trubikoff, a new branch it is, just talking about the branch, but I think it's good to see some people engaging online as well. I don't know if I've heard his name before, but great to see.
He's a business partner of mine, and that's something we're doing, automating retirement home booking. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching, Adam.
What's up, Adam? I'm sure we'll talk later today, buddy.
Yeah, but to bring it back around to that sort of $20, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the price the price of the PSF token in US dollars has not been changing very much, but the quantity of tokens being burned and taken out of circulation through consumption has been increasing steadily. And so that's really nice to see. And so we're nowhere near the point where we can like afford to start paying people regular salaries or anything. So that's why this $20 is a token amount. But once we get the ball rolling on this minting council stuff, I'm also, one of the things that's high on my priority list is to get stats published. You guys probably remember I had it running for a little while where it would just once a day, I want to write to the paid rate database, like general statistics, like what's the price of Bitcoin Cash, what's the price of the PSF token, how many PSF tokens are in circulation, you know, how many times has minimal SLP library been downloaded, those sort of things. And what this is building up to is this Web3 cash stack. Like I want to incentivize members to run instances of the cash stack and host like publicly accessible instances, like probably 3 to 5. Same with the IPFS pinning service that runs on top of the paid write database. Like, so what these statistics would be doing is like, you know, looking at for uptime and availability for these servers, and then bounties would be paid out based on that. So I wanted to get us to that point where we have the sort of the basic infrastructure incentivized. And if one person, you know, stops providing the service, we can detect that they stop getting paid. We can bring in a new person, you know, and just sort of, yeah. And so paying the minting council $20 each time they come together is sort of a step in that direction of essentially paying bounties for our core infrastructure. So yeah, that's the idea. Okay, well, I think we can wrap up this discussion and move forward with the airdrop vote. I'll probably have a couple more days just for people in the VIP room to chime in before I actually do the airdrop. But is there any final comments that anybody wants to make on the minting council or governance voting and stuff like that?
I think we just need to start running and then work out the kinks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to do this in stages so that everyone feels like they've had an opportunity to, you know, have their voice heard.
I feel like this is a good, innovative way of doing something that really no one's tackled this, especially on a UTXO chain before. So it's really neat to see something new like this come about.
Yeah. Thanks. And I've been also cross-posting on the SLP Telegram channel, and I think we've got the attention of a few people out there. We really are the only organization that's still innovating with SLP tokens. Okay, well, with that, I'll open the floor to anything we want to talk about. And one of the things I want to talk about is Nostr. So I'll just give a brief cap on that so we're all on the same page. So Nostr it's essentially a replacement for Twitter, is the canonical use case for it. And it was developed about 1.5 years ago, is my understanding, by a Lightning like a BTC Lightning developer. It doesn't have any official connection to Bitcoin or Lightning Network. It's a standalone, it's its own protocol. But there's a lot of Bitcoiners sort of in the space for that reason. And one of the things it is being used for is to be able to send Lightning. So it's like I said, the use case actually probably just easier to show than tell. If you guys haven't seen astral.ninja, let me see if I have that up here. Yeah, astral.ninja. So this is what it looks like. This is my account. So I've got a feed very similar to Twitter. I can send end-to-end encrypted messages. I can tweet out a post. So this is just the surface level, and this is just one client, and this is where the different, and so I can follow people, they can follow me. Stoyan, you're in here. I know you're in my messages.
Yeah, I followed you, but my opinion is that this is not replacement for Twitter. It's more close to RPC over XML replacement, maybe, because it's like a distributed protocol to send events. They mentioned in their documentation their main like atom is event. So you just propagate events through this network, and you can use this propagation of events for what you want. They have like several types of events, like type 1, something. So you can emulate different services with this type of events, like have Twitter or have Telegram channel or whatever. But it's like event bus, maybe distributed one.
Yeah, you're getting to the meat of it. So this is where it, I'm trying to describe this in a way that like people familiar with Twitter, like sort of bring them on board and then peel back the layers. So one of these layers is that unlike Twitter, where there's one central Twitter server, there's all these redundant relays. And so like Stoyan's account, for example, is connected to all these relays. So if one of these relays like decides they don't like him anymore or they go down for some reason, it's not a big deal because everyone's connected to like a plurality of relays. And so like Stoyan said, it's all event based, it's all event driven. So every time you post or someone posts a tweet, that's an event. And so what you're doing is you're subscribing to events from other, and it uses a public private key pair, just like Bitcoin does. And so you're subscribing to events for a public key pair. And because everything's public private key based, you can send someone an end-to-end encrypted message really easily because you already have their public key, because that is their Twitter handle. And they've got a system for creating human readable names. So it's not just like a public key string of characters. And I just figured out how to set that up this morning. So I've got one. It's trout at noster.psfoundation.info, and I'm working on getting Stoyan one. So if any of you guys create a public private key pair, which you can do at astral.ninja, that website I just showed, send me the Beck32 pub key, and I can add you. I can give you a human readable name, and that's sort of the equivalent of a Twitter check mark, which is funny to me because the Twitter check mark is actually like an authority saying like this is a legit person, whereas in this scheme, a check mark is just that like you have a human readable handle, and there's no authority here.
Chris,
and
did you planning on running this one of these relays? Because like part of their documentation is if you are not on the same relay, you cannot talk with people. So if you have one in our organization, we can always put it to be like in our relays. So we will always be able to connect to each other if we have one which belong to us.
Yeah, I am very much thinking of a relay. I think we should run multiple relays. Because I'm less interested in the Twitter features of it, and I'm much more interested in the end-to-end encrypted chatting features of it. Because what I'd like to do is build a bot for, maybe like for the DEX, so people can interact with the DEX protocol, buy and sell tokens just through essentially a Telegram bot. But if we built it on Noster, I mean, there's that whole uncensorable thing. Like we don't need to submit a phone number, like you do for a Telegram account. No one can ban us. No one can say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that on our chat platform. So that's part of what's getting me really excited about it is not so much the Twitter features, but the Telegram features. And the other thing that's really nice about this is we probably don't need to do any heavy lifting here, because there's already so many people working on clients that this work will probably be done for us by the time we're actually like ready for it. Because you can already do end-to-end encrypted chat in astral.ninja, sending those messages. And I've seen other slicker, what was that called? Noster or something like that. It's like a clipboard where like you can bring it up on two devices, and anything you put in one will show up on the other one. And so that's like a really handy thing for like passing data between devices, like a phone and a computer. And so all sorts of just really useful applications here.
It's based on these web sockets. So they have even a plugin for the Lightning daemon. So every time there's some like a transaction happens, you can send notification, which is pretty nice. You can use it for like if something go to some wallet, you can get notification or something. So
yeah, that's what I was watching a YouTube interview with the developer of Damus, which is an iOS client, and he was saying that's what he uses the end-to-end encrypted messaging for. Is he's got a private relay running with his Lightning node, and so when he receives a Lightning payment, it sends a message to his device that he received the message through the Noster network. And so, yeah, just like these are the types of things, like when you have like a very simple, open, end-to-end encrypted communication thing, like we can do all sorts of things with this. Like, yeah, I'm thinking the applications of device-to-device communication are pretty huge here. So anyways, I'm excited about it. I'm going to keep playing with it. I'm just, every time I'm like, they have like BIPs, they have NIPs, these Noster improvement. And I've been reading through those actual like technical specifications. They're incredibly easy to read. They're really easy to implement. And like, that's the ongoing theme here. Oh yeah. So Aaron, I see your NPub. Send me the hex version,
The hex
Beck-
version.
yeah, the Beck 32 version.
Do they have a 2 hex, or do I need to do that?
Well, that's something we were struggling with. Well, Stoyan was having the same issue, so we'll find a way.
We need to drop the NPub before we run it through a hex?
No, it's the hex actually starts first. Like, you start with a Beck 32 private and public key, and then that NPub is a hash of the hex. But a lot of times, what I'm seeing, these clients just skip that part. They don't actually show you the actual input that is used to generate that NPub. So we'll get through it.
Yeah.
There is a way to look up the hex from the NPub. I just don't have it at my fingertips. Stoyan's having the same issue. We'll find a way to do that.
Enter NPub note key here. Let's try that. And
yeah, just be careful with who you're giving your private key to. That's that'd be one way to generate it, but you should also.
This is just this is actually the public key, and it's creating so if you go to the dev tools, there's a key converter.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I think this should be it. So let me drop that in the Telegram.
Okay, nice.
So if you go to dev tools, you can drop your public
in Astral Ninja. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Dev tools. I don't know if I've seen a dev tools section. Is it in settings?
If you go to go to settings. And then
dev
at the
tools.
bottom, there's a dev tools. So you can.
Very cool. Oh yeah. Okay. Nice. Sweet. Yeah. So yeah, this is part of the fun of it, is just like, oh, you try this out. There's so many like little hacks, little programs that people have built that are fun to play with. They have a Telegram channel, and most of this stuff is in TypeScript or JavaScript. So that's the other fun thing about this. So
if you have time, I want to have discussion about something in our NFTs that we're creating.
Go for it.
Yeah, if today, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, let's shift gears.
If I can share my screen.
Yeah, there we go. I can see it.
I have a little proposal for the NFTs that we're creating. There's a little already problem with the document URL. We're putting now the IPFS, and we're pointing it to the JSON file, but the old NFTs, they're pointing this directly to the media.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking maybe it's good if we have our own protocol put in the document hash, because we don't need to force people to use our protocol for creating NFTs. If they decide to something else, it's okay. We can just decide to not use these NFTs. But if we put inside the document hash something like PCF and then the IPFS hash, we can immediately see that this thing will point to the JSON file, and we will know we can follow our protocol, getting the immutable data and everything. If it's just IPFS, like for example, the old NFTs that are already created, like for example, the
what
Django
you're
stuff
saying.
and everything, they have there already IPFS, but it's pointing to some media file, like image or something.
Right.
So I was thinking it will be good to start this document URL with something more meaningful.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this, because I've had similar thoughts. And I mean, my original thinking was that, they're probably, if it starts with HTTP, it's probably pointing directly to the artwork. And so, you could just react that way. And
Yeah.
but if it's starting with IPFS, then
IPFS,
it's
yeah.
probably using our protocol, but that's actually not
Yeah.
a very good assumption. They could
Yeah,
just be
and
using IPFS, but pointing to the
to something
artwork.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that would be a good reason to use PSF prefix. I
And
was
I
also
want-
thinking of using the P2WDB, :/
yeah,
as a prefix.
something meaningful for us, and it can also be used. This document URL, we can make some of the NFTs loading faster. Like if we have here, for example, beacon like protocol, means you don't need maybe to search for the something on IPFS at all. Or for example, I was thinking if we have this domain like name service, you can put here like ENS and something, so you don't need to get every time the IPFS just to check something with this NFS and NFT.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if I can show you something very, very cool, I have
Yeah.
a new type of NFTs. So
Nice.
I'm not sure if I told a little previous time, I think, about the nouns. Do you remember this?
The noun.
Nouns.
Yeah,
It's,
that was cool. You showed some really cool stuff and how it's stored within the transaction.
It's a huge project. They have they're pretty old already. Everything is on Ethereum, but they're generating automatically a new NFT every day, and it automatically starts an auction for it, and everything going to the treasury. But they also started working now with some other companies, so they can create DAO with just one click, and all of the members can be tracked with this NFT, something like this one. So it's a very old and nice project. But exciting stuff is that all of these NFTs, they're on chain. They're not on IPFS or somewhere else. Everything is stored in the blockchain, and you just can generate them very easy. So I created one library, like a JavaScript library, for working with this stuff from any blockchain. So you can just send this seed, and it will send you back SVG image. And you can do with this image what you want. So I created on my, first to show you something about this consumer and the REST API. See what kind of cool stuff I have here.
Yeah.
See, I can switch to REST or to consumer. So for my local development, I just switching to the REST, and I'm using Omaha nice server. And I can switch back to consumer if I want to use Web3. But
I love that, Stoyan. Let's take a moment to appreciate that feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the thing, is I've thought about doing a config tab where, you can switch between REST API or basically Web 2 or Web 3, and then, have a list of servers, and then, put in your own as well.
Yeah. And now about the cool NFTs. So just with sending one call, I can generate this as much as I want. Every time there will be the new one. And the only thing that I need to save is this unique seed. If I if I save this seed on the BCH, like in NFT, I always will get the same image, and it's stored in some blockchain, but it's somewhere.
So is
Safely
it
stored.
SVG data, or is that how?
It's
Yeah.
SVG data.
Okay,
And
that makes
see,
sense.
I can generate something cool, and yeah, let's mint this guy.
That
It's
one's
not so
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Missing some teeth, but I like it.
yeah.
Is that a
but
pipe in his
Mhm.
mouth? Or is he
I
smiling?
think his mouth is
Doesn't
just like,
so now it's minting it, and it will become NFT on the BCH, like SOP NFT. So
Oh wow, this is so. I love the Stoyan show. Is really great,
yeah,
especially.
see,
Yeah.
I have already a lot of these guys. He is the new guy, and for this guy, I needed this feature that I told you now before. Now, because if you see the info, see my document URL is just this seed.
Wow.
I get it from here. I get the
Oh.
SVG, and I can display it, and I don't need IPFS at all anymore. It's so fast.
So you're making a call. So those are the numbers that put together that unique photo.
Yes.
And so you're making a call to is it Ethereum or
Polygon. I
Polygon?
save everything on the Polygon because it's cheap. But
So you're getting a series of transactions from Polygon that have the SVG data in them?
it's just one transaction. You send
Oh.
the seed, you get the SVG image, and it's free.
Wow.
Because you're directly calling the RPC, you don't signing transaction. It's read-only transaction,
Wow.
so
Right.
it's free. So
Wow,
yeah, I
that's
can
so
have
much
this.
fun.
Yeah, I can generate now the new collection here on SOP tokens, and I can start selling them.
Are these type 65 or are they type 1 tokens?
They're I'm still don't how to see. I don't know what to do with them because if I'm creating now type 1 because it's easier. Everybody can create them from here,
Right.
but you can make the group token, but then how to see, you need to burn anytime the group token to
Right.
create the new
Yeah.
stuff. So
I mean, I was just thinking about it because I haven't worked on the bit of supporting type 1 on OwnRare, but I'd like to do that. I feel like there's a lot here that's already interesting and fun and should be able to be imported simply.
yeah, it's how to see. The artwork is not connected at all to the type of one that you want. You just send, and
Right.
with this, it's the only command you need is this thing.
Right.
This, just make this one, and you have a new artwork generated, pixel artwork. So one call. And yeah,
Very
this
cool.
is what I'm doing here. But yeah, because I have this new like document URL, I can immediately understand that it's something saved on the Polygon blockchain, and I can get the artwork from there.
Mhm.
And in this case, I don't need to call IPFS, and it's very fast. And
Yeah.
I tried also to cover for the old this Django type of URLs, because I think some of the people still have this. So I'm trying also to. I started with. I think the Chris started one library. I'm not sure how you are progressing on it. It was like SOP token metadata
Oh
or
yeah.
something.
I think it was SLP mutable data.
Mutable data is yeah, but there's one more. SOP token something. Maybe you abandon it, but I'm trying now to how to see, to make all of these things in one library. So the only thing you will call is just get media and the URL, and based on this document URL, it will return to you directly image. So
Stoyan, can you post a link to this code in our Telegram channel? Because I'd like to look at it, because I like what you're doing here, and I think we should update it's either the PS2 or the PS7 specification for this.
Yeah, if it's possible, it will be nice to have our own token, but you can decide what will be good for everybody. I was struggling to decide between PSF or just JSON, because In this case, we don't need to be something bound to us.
I'm kind of leaning towards PSF, where if it's PSF, then it means it's following our token specification.
Yeah. That's
I
why
think that makes a lot of sense.
PFS, it's going to this, and it will get all of the mutable, immutable, will combine them, and it will return your token icon.
Right.
So you can directly start using it.
Because I'm also going to start working on the simple store protocol, and in the mutable data of the token, I want to call out to external data. And so it's either going to be IPFS, which means, get it from the IPFS network, or P2WDB, which means get it from the pay to write database.
Yeah, this one is old token. This one is based on our current standards. And these are these ponds that and I have somewhere also some Django stuff. So I think this library will cover pretty much most of them. And you just need to call this get media, and it will return you everything needed.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the interesting stuff I'm doing now.
Well done. That's really fun to see. It's fun to see this idea of it auto-generating one a day. That kind of stuff is just interesting. There's so much innovation that can be done once you start looking at stuff like that and not having to host something somewhere.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, exactly. All the different, because that's just it, is like there's this perpetual issue of like, where does the data live? On the blockchain and the pay to write database, on the IPFS network. If it's on the IPFS network, who's pinning it?
The two biggest complaints on NFTs right now are right click save as and what if link rot happens, right? And this takes care of one of them simply. In fact, kind of both, because it was never stored as a JPEG anyway.
Yeah, if it's on the blockchain, I do like that idea of breaking an image up into a series of SVGs and then writing the data to the chain. That's because the data is so small. That's why that works.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's they even compress it with some like very simple algorithms. So even they make it even smaller, and they separate it on head, for example, body and glasses. So you can make many combinations with the same data with this seed. Like you have now the 5 possible stuff, and every one of them is like 100 items. So you can have like infinite number of combinations.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that generative art. Okay, guys. Well, it's been about an hour and a half. It's probably a good time to wrap that up. Wrap this meeting up. Stoyan, thank you for showing us that. That's great, and that's been a great discussion on those prefixes. I think that our specification could use a little work there, and I'm looking forward to reviewing the code in your library, because I think that Aaron and myself will also be able to leverage that.
Yeah. I tried to install the Nerf Studio, but I'm gonna have to do it on my Linux machine, Stoyan, because I ran into a problem with Visual Studio and installing. Looks like they had a problem with the Pi rock or something like that for the path files. So I'll try it on Linux. I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, we couldn't make the wheel. Some couldn't build the wheel for Pico tools, so I got stuck on that one on the install. I'll let you know, Stoyan.
And I'm going to move forward with the governance vote. I'll probably this week I'll airdrop the voting tokens and create a video on how to send your vote for especially for the non-technical people, to just how to send your voting token to one of the voting addresses, and that'll create the minting council. And in addition to all the work I did on the minting council commands, that now I need to go and do an update for the pay to write database so that it can actually read and respect the decisions of the minting council.
Excellent.
The work is never done.
No, it isn't, but it just gets more interesting. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you for your time. Great discussion as always, and I'll see you in a couple weeks for our